Good evening, my friends and fellow beekeepers. We have pollen, tons of pollen coming in, and a lot of 60 and 70-degree weather here in Tennessee. Tomorrow's supposed to be nice. I'm going to be checking more hives. It'll be about low 70s. Big, fat maple pollen baskets are raining into the hives right now. And 20-something years of it, and it just never gets old. I'm so excited to be getting into bees tomorrow. I wasn't able to get into them today because of different work we had to do for the Bee Expo. And Huckleberry's like, who's ready for swarm season? And I'm just like, whew, okay, now slow down just a second. It's going to be here before we know it. And we just filmed the most detailed video on swarm trapping that I've ever produced. And I think it'll be one of the most detailed swarm trapping videos on YouTube. And that was the goal. And thankfully, I have Daniel Poor, who's now working for me full time, doing our recordings at the expo, and he's also doing our videos now. There will be some videos that I do myself with Laurel, because sometimes we're just in the bee yard and he's not with us every time we're doing that, but it's going to help us be able to produce more videos for you. There's so many new things going on. I want to share with you the vision that we have for the future, not just with the Bee Expo, not just with this channel, but more for what we hope to do for beekeeping and beyond that. So thank you for joining from all over the United States, Canada, and everywhere in between. And Gil Parker, thank you for becoming one of our members and supporting us like that. Everyone, think of your questions. Kathy Key, thank you so much for starting us out with your donation. We appreciate that. And, questions, get prepped, drop them. We got several of our buddies in here to help us with the show. Jake Osborne. There's a Hell Hives up there, and I actually was just using some of his honey earlier. I have so many different types of honeys, and thank you guys for giving me so many. It's just a hard decision every day whenever I want to have honey, who I'm going to enjoy in that moment. So I haul bees. If you ever need to transport them more, we are the best. Well, that's good to know, John. I actually am winding down a little bit on that currently. Hey, High Rock Honey, thank you so much for becoming one of our members. Please drop some questions if you have them, and we'd like to get them. Hello from the better part of Tennessee. No one says that about where you live, David. Not most of the locals don't even say that. San Francisco Bay Area Zone 9B spring is in full effect. I would say so. And I'm actually going to be in California. Chris and I are going to be in California this coming week, visiting Olivares and doing a few other things as well. And that is going to be up in Orland. So Olivares has been producing queens and packages and more for a long time. And I really think that they do good work. I'm excited to go interview them and see their processes. And a lot of what I'm excited to see is and learn about is how they keep these genetic stocks working and pure at the scale that they do. I've heard a little bit about it. It's impressive. They have the Golden West that they sell, which is a Randy Oliver queen designed to keep mite levels lower, and in some cases not even need treatment. So when did the maples start? For me, that started about not quite 2 weeks ago, but we're getting close to it. I'd say 10 days ago. And a lot of the weather hasn't been good, but the maples are just really resistant. And thankfully they produce over a decent bit of time. And that's really helpful. That maple pollen is just so consistent, and now we're starting to get a few others, a couple really tiny blue flowers on the ground. I can't remember their name. We're seeing a little bit of dead nettle and henbit. It's just a trickle, but it's a fraction of what we're fixing to get here in the next week or two. I'm seeing capped brood. The bigger colonies are having 2.5 frames of brood, and it's go time. I expect tomorrow I'm going to see even more. Can we put liquid feed on our bees now? Western Kentucky. So you technically can. I know a lot of people say that you can't this early. I started feeding liquid feed last week. It was a 1.5 to 1, so not quite a 2 to 1, but thicker than 1 to 1. Had really good results with that. Strong colonies take it really good, and a lot of it's the weather forecast. I warm it up the day before or the night before, and I'll have syrup that's 100 degrees or more, and then I'll feed with frame feeders if it's a strong colony. And if it's a weak colony, then I want to use a jar right over the cluster or a bucket over the cluster, and that works a lot better. And we're not trying to add a lot of weight on many of these yet. Some of them don't really need it, so they're not really getting any feed. I'll give them maybe just enough to kind of just help them produce a little bit more brood food. It definitely helps for them to get a little bit of that sugar syrup, just a little bit of a kickstart. But the ones that have honey aren't getting much, but some of them I'm going to have to feed a decent bit to them. There's always a handful in the yard that just like, how in the world did you already burn through all this food? But that's part of beekeeping right there. Wow, we've had a lot of members join up today. I want to say thanks to everybody. Mark Smith, of course, High Rock Honey, Huckleberry, thank you, and Korean Native Honeybee. Cool. And of course, let's see here. Yeah, I think that was everybody. Keeps moving around on me funny on this side of the screen. All right, so let's get to a couple announcements and we'll get to some questions. So Big Money Bee Company says they had 5 frames, all stages today. That's awesome. And it's just an exciting time. It's always great when you have a lot of bees that you've overwintered. And some of you maybe didn't have as good of overwintering success as you would like to. I've had a lot of years like that. And I was just talking to a gentleman by the name of Eric last night about it. In his first year, he lost 80% of his colonies. And this year, it's looking like he's going to have about 80% survive. And he flipped it. And he started talking to me about what he was doing differently versus his first year. And he was really paying attention to mites. He did multiple he just said he did 4 alcohol washes because he didn't do anything the first year. He really overkilled it the next year and did 4 alcohol washes per colony. And he also over-treated probably a little bit, but his bees are alive and he's excited by that. And we talked about him like, yeah, you could probably drop your treatments down just a little bit and still have really good success and probably only do, 1 to 2 washes. Some people don't do any. I think it's a really good idea for anyone who doesn't know their season. Yeah, you've watched videos, you've read some books. Those don't always apply for your location. Seeing how the mites develop in your area and also making sure that there towards mid to late August, that critical month of August and early September, that we have low mite populations. So we have the strongest and cleanest clusters going into winter. And so Eric is now really excited and now he's concerned about swarm control and not about having to buy more bees this year. So that's what I like to hear. So we'll get to some more questions here in a second, but let's go ahead and get some news out of the way because a lot of people are going to be excited about the Expo news on the videos. And I also want to say really quick that these books of Blake Shook's and mine are now in stock. We had 500 at the Expo and they all sold out, and the second batch has made it in. And so those are all shipping out. I think 1,000, I've sold 1,000 copies have been sold or gotten to people so far. So it's a pretty large book. It's called The Golden Rules of Beekeeping According to Blake and Kamon. I want to say thanks again to Blake Shook for inviting me onto this project. He got it started, and I think it would maybe be a good idea to get another opinion on this. And I was very flattered and still am honored to be a part of this book. And Blake and I actually really struggled to not step on each other's toes because we do so much of the same type of management. Somebody signed my book, but I can't read the signature. It's probably my bad handwriting. And so we definitely wanted to give a fundamental book that makes sense. And after a while, no matter who you talk to, there are some different techniques. But at a certain point, once you get good at keeping bees alive, the fundamentals are they're the same. It's just how you go about achieving the fundamentals is a little bit different. Thanks for getting the book and for the comments, Eric. Appreciate it. Thank you for enjoying our book. And so it just goes through pretty much every situation that we can think of. Splitting, a couple different techniques on that, nuances, things to watch out for, feeding ratios, how to preserve syrup, how to store combs, how to keep hive records. And some of this is myself, some of it's Blake, and a lot of times, he corrected some of my stuff. I didn't really correct, added to, or added maybe more to it on a different technique. So I hope that you all enjoyed the book. This is basically the YouTube videos that I do and what Blake does into a book, to where you don't have to hunt down 300 different videos to get the information. Now, unfortunately, Zach, I have no information about that. So some other commercial beekeeper will have to do that one. Well, thanks for the comments. I really do appreciate it. And so those are available. Thank you. We wanted it to be a book that didn't just dwell on the beginner information. There's already a lot of beginner books. The goal with this book is to stick you into that veteran category as quickly as possible. And what we're finding is a lot of you who have kept bees for a few years or more, you already know some of this stuff. You're just not 100% sure. Sometimes if what you're doing is right. And for some of the feedback that we're getting is like, I thought I was doing it right, but I just kind of wanted a second opinion on it. And I know that sometimes I'll do something and I want to ask Bob Benny or Blake or even Zach, who commented earlier, when I'm really desperate, if I'm doing it the right way, or if they have any insights on how to do it better. And that's what the bee community is for, is to be able to help each other out. And that's what this channel is for. So let's get really quickly to the videos for the expo. Chris, come on in here and share with us how that's going to go down. Any of you who came to the Bee Expo, how you're going to get those videos. And for those of you who weren't able to make it, that want to get it for yourself, or if you have a bee club that you'd like to get them to purchase them so that you guys can watch them as a group, that is an option available as well. So Chris, take it away.
Well, thank you, Kamon. Hope everybody's doing well. I was out in the bees today as well and had some good successes. And I am nice donation from David.
Hey, David, thank you very much. Thanks for helping us with the Bee Expo this year. Got us some time off, came up early. We gave him, some really good exercise, help him stretch those legs a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's exciting. The bees are out flying here in Ohio. What is it? It was 60 degrees today, so it's nice. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that as well. So, I guess it helps if I actually share what I'm looking at. So the videos are live on the website, as Kamon mentioned. We'll have a nice spot here on the front. I was just wrapping it up before we started the live, so tomorrow morning there'll be a nice little spot there. But if you're interested in going to the videos, we'll have a whole video guide that launches here soon with it. But if you go up to the corner here where it says previous expos and you click on the 2026 videos, here's where you can sign up. If you are someone who didn't attend the expo and you did not purchase a ticket, you can go through the link here where it says sign up. And pay the $75 and get all of the videos for that $75 fee. If you were someone who purchased a ticket, you will still go through the checkout process, but you will need a coupon code at the end that waives that fee. That's how that works. And so there's two different ways to do it. We will post this on Facebook and send it out in an email. Mm-hmm. But if you get to this page before we get those to you, you can copy this link that's right here. And of course, it's in a really great spot. Welcome to Making Websites 101. So if you go to this again, if you purchased a ticket, we will ask you to go to this form. This form will allow you to fill out just a couple pertinent items: name, last name, email address. And this is just to verify that you did purchase a ticket. And I don't have a sample, boo me. On your original ticket email, there is a code. I believe it's 6 digits. 6 digits and letters mixed together. I believe it's 6. But it's on your original email where you had the QR code when you scanned in. If you still have that email, on that, again, there's like it's called your ticket code. If you're able to provide that, that will help Josh. Josh, our one of our new employees, is going to be checking all of these. That will make his job tremendously easier if you're able to provide that that code for him. So what happens is you have a ticket, you purchase a ticket to the expo, you want to get your videos for free, great. You fill out this form. Josh, hey, there's Josh right there. Josh will get back to you within a reasonable amount of time, maybe a day or two, or maybe even quicker, and he will be sending you an email with your new code. You take that code, you go back to the website, if I can get my mouse there. You go back to the website, and when you go through the sign-up process and the checkout, you will be able to, in there, insert that code, and it will get you free access to all of the videos. There is a really neat page here. So this year, the 14-Day Beekeeper, Lawrence Edwards, baby, he sponsored all the videos this year. And so here's just a little snippet of all the recordings that are offered in the video package. Again, everything we're talking about is for personal use. One person at home on their computer, I suppose on a phone, laptop, whatever it might be. I'll touch on bee clubs here in just one moment. I don't want to confuse anyone. Again, you'll be able to, once you're signed up and signed in, whether you didn't have an expo ticket and you purchased the videos, or you had an expo ticket, you received a code and you entered it to waive the fee, everyone will have access to all of these awesome videos. So they're all up here. Some of them have a short description of what they were. Others are pretty self-explanatory, like Randy Oliver's latest research. I didn't think anyone needed me to put Randy Oliver's latest research below that. So Jennifer Apiary asks about putting them on YouTube. So we actually enter into a contract with all of these speakers for us to be able to display these. So it's an additional several steps. And a lot of these speakers rely on this information for other presentations. They charge other people to go out and speak. And so we respect their information, and that's why it's behind a little bit of a paywall. Obviously, people who went to the expo can see it. That's part of the fee, of course. Yeah, but that's why we're not putting it on YouTube.
Right. Some of them don't want it abroad, and then again, that's part of the deal, though, is we at least need to be able to have it for our attendees, and also to be able to generate some revenue, because one of our biggest expenses is speakers, recording teams, and audio visual. It's a massive expense, and so that's why that is what it is. But I'm happy to say that, for an individual who buys it, it comes to about $2.50 per hour of video. And I think that's a pretty good price, and you'll be able to watch them forever. And now for bee clubs, that's where I think we've seen a big uptick over the years in bee clubs taking advantage of this. And maybe sometimes you get a Bob Benny to speak, and then sometimes you just play one of our videos. And in that way, you still have really good content and good audio for your club members.
Yeah. So if you, and again, these links will be on the front page of the website. I apologize. That's, I wasn't finished yet. So, but in the menu here in the top right-hand corner where it says previous expos, where you find the 2026 videos, again, that is for a personal individual license. If you are interested in purchasing something for a club under the Bee Expo speaker videos, it's a little bit more complicated. There's no easy way to do it, so we're doing it like this. You will go out here and purchase these, and then we'll get with you and be able to share the information. In the past, we used flash drives, and flash drives, if you're not paying attention, flash drives and computer hardware has become unbelievably expensive and difficult to get your hands on. So in order to not charge everyone $30 to $50 per set of videos for a reliable flash drive, because these videos are large, we're actually offering for the first time a digital download of the videos. as always, no one owns these videos except for the Bee Expo. So when you download them, you are not the owner of them. So you cannot upload them. You cannot sell them. You cannot share them. All that fun stuff. I just feel like I probably should say it anyways. So what you have here, it's very, very simple and straightforward. So we are offering for the first time this year all 3 years that we have recorded. That's 2024, 2025, and this past year, 2026. You can purchase for your bee club all 3 years for the price of 2 years worth of videos. And again, once you go out here, you click on Ray's smiling face. You'll go through here. You'll add it to the cart. You'll purchase it. And Josh will get with you to get you all 3 years worth of videos. Again, they will be able to be downloaded. So if you're a club that maybe doesn't have internet at their location, you want to set up a projector screen and your computer in your bee yard and watch these videos with your bees, whatever it might be, you are now able to do that. So again, the first option here is all 3 years together for $350. If you maybe have already purchased the 2024, 2025, you can just purchase a single year. And at the bottom, not to forget out the individual licenses. If you are someone who would like to purchase individual licenses, not for bee clubs, you can also purchase all 3 years of videos for the price of 2. And we think that's an unbelievable deal on content and building your content, your library, and your information. That cost per minute is quite low, and the quality is quite high. So, and
again, we appreciate all the attendees coming. You got your free copy, and that's one of the perks of. Yes, I mean, there's a lot of instructional videos. Heck, I remember this was when I was 18. I paid for a 2-hour video on how to take my mandolin playing up to the next level, and I paid $60, and that was 18 years ago. And so this is 30 hours of content. So I think it's a good value. But the best part is if you can get your bee club to do it, you can maybe watch it at your bee club instead. So anyhow, I think
I'll leave it with one last thing. I'll just ask. So for the people who are on here watching now later, we did have a survey out live. We did have some participation, but I'm always asking for more information. I always want more information from you. So I just ask you be thoughtful when you answer. I did put 2 questions at the bottom again, just because I always want more information. We're asking for what your favorite part of the expo was. Again, these are for people who came. And name off something new you'd love to see as a part of the expo. And again, we're all jokesters and we love to have fun, but I'd love some honest, feedback on that, because again, Kamon and I have already had multiple hours of conversations of how can we make this bigger, better? Should we make things bigger, better? What are the best things that we do? What are things that we can do better at? So, we want that feedback.
Yeah. How do we make this better each year? And that's always hard to do when you're competing against yourself. So when do the tickets for 2027? The goal is May, like last year. We'll have it'll be May Day tickets. And
real quick, I'll jump in. We're actively working. We received glowing reviews from all the hotels because of how awesome you all are in treating the staff with respect and all the great stuff that our group does. And so we thank you for that. And so we have not signed a contract for the date yet. So I would just in case something would come up, I'd hate for anyone to get screwed off on purchasing hotels somewhere and us not having the date secured yet. So
sure,
I'm not trying to be ominous. We just haven't secured it yet. I just hate for someone to waste money on it. So,
and I don't think everyone knows, it's no secret the date that it's likely going to be is the 7th, 8th, and 9th. It's the second weekend. So, and we tentatively have it down. We're just making sure that we get the food contracts in. We're getting the proper rooms so we can do some expanding this year. And so don't go get your hotels, because there's a 0.01% chance that it may not be that, but it's going.
And we did so well this past year that there's a good chance that we can drive hotel prices down a little bit, or at least keep them the same as last year. There are a lot of hotels who are really happy about that.
So we haven't taken a lot of personal information, Jennifer, on that. I have no clue. We don't ask what sex somebody is. We don't ask, you know, uh, for a stool sample or any type of really, details. And that's something I think we're going to try to do a little bit more. Not so much getting too detailed, but at the same time, a lot of the hotels, a lot of the people that we're working with, they want these details because as they're looking to possibly sponsor something or to work with us on getting us better rates, they would like to know stuff like how many people are coming from out of country, how many people are coming from over 10 hours away, how many people are women, how many people are this, or how many people are local. And so we don't have that information. I've always been of the mindset, keep it simple, stupid. But as we've gotten bigger, we've seen there are some advantages to that. So we may do that in the future. Cool. The ABF is supposed to be the next weekend. So we won't be on the same weekend. Not that we really noticed before, but that'll be good for them and some of the vendors that want to go to both.
Before I jump off, do you want me to go over your other announcement, or do you want to just leave that for the?
I think we'll do that here in just a little bit. I think we need to get some questions. I'll just say anyone who's interested in buying nukes from us, we have a very limited number left this year, and we will be talking about that here in a little bit. If you want to drive to Gainesboro and pick them up, they'll be very high quality bees. But that definitely will be something we'll talk about here in a little bit. Let's get to some questions. Norman, just real quick, says people flying in might need transport. Yeah, it's super easy. People that fly into Louisville, there's a shuttle that go straight to the hotels, and some of the hotels have shuttles that go straight to the Expo Center. Some of them, like the Crown Plaza, you can walk to it if you feel like walking about a quarter mile or so. It's not really that far, but it still is a little bit of a walk. Okay, so Chris, let's kind of start back up at the top where we had some questions. And while you do that, I want to say thanks to Ripple Effect for donating yet again to our channel. And I also wanted to comment on this. He bought 2 pallets of Premier frames. Many of the bottom bars were not glued and the foundations weren't put in properly. I would send him some pictures and get back with it on that. After a couple of decades of buying a lot of supplies, I don't know how many frames, but well over 10,000 frames just in the last handful of years. I bought a couple pallets as well. I don't care what company it is. At some point, they're going to have some issues. Sometimes their employee continues to run the machine and forgets to reload the glue. The quality control. Sometimes the main guys aren't there and it gets overlooked. Send them some pictures. I had an issue with some Premier stuff a couple of years ago. They straightened it out. I've also had issues with pretty much every other company I've purchased woodenware from at some point. So sorry to hear that you had a bad experience, but if you buy enough bee gear, you're going to have them with every single company. Let's see. Let's see. That's not what I meant to hit. Chris, hit a question.
Well, you're popping in and out. Here we go.
How do you prevent a colony from dying in the middle of winter and catch early signs that they're in trouble? Some of my bees died. And so there's no way to prevent it entirely, but the best way to prevent winter loss is to really focus on late summer and early fall management. The colonies that always survive easily are the ones that have very large clusters, and that can depend on the colony type. If we're talking an Italian honeybee, and I know you have Korean native honeybee, but I assume you also are keeping Apis mellifera. If you're keeping a native bee, I know nothing about that. And also, it's my understanding that in South Korea, you all deal with, at least in some regions, tropolalaps, and which is very different from Varroa management as well. And so in order to really make sure that we have good bees going to winter, August, I'm doing alcohol washes, making sure that my mite loads are low. I'm making sure that I have food in those summer months. I don't know if you have a dearth period. I have 2 to 3 months of dearth period, no food's coming into my colonies in late June, July, August, and sometimes early September if we have a drought. And so those bees during that period need to have plenty of food so they can keep that strong colony, a clean bit of bees, no disease, no mites. And if I can achieve that and go into that winter cluster build up, those winter bee build up with a good bit of momentum, as long as they have plenty of food, usually I have no issues whatsoever. Okay, Apis cerana. Okay, I don't know anything about those bees. Like I know a little bit about technically what they are, but as far as management, they're a smaller colony. They deal with Varroa very differently, and I don't even know how Tropal Alaps affects them at all. So I apologize, Korean native honeybee, but that's something that I'm just not an expert at. Yeah, that's really outside of my wheelhouse. And to be honest, I don't know anybody personally who knows a lot about that because here in the United States, we just don't have Apis cerana. But I would be interested in learning more and definitely continue to comment in the questions down below, or maybe give us some insight on what you're experiencing with that type of bee. The biker bee said, I had a couple dead outs that had boxes of honey. They didn't starve to death. They froze to death. Can moisture get into the hives? What can I do with the honey if I cannot extract it right now? So if you purchase bees, you can give them some of that honey. You can just set it to the side when it's cold. Like I don't worry here in Tennessee about wax moths. They won't be an issue until we start getting to about May, and they still aren't too bad in early May. So you just keep mice out of it, store it to the side. You can give it to some of your dead outs. Typically, when I see colonies that have a lot of food left over and they have perished, it's very rarely moisture issues. It can be. It's most often the clusters were too small. There was too much Varroa mites late in the season. Maybe they had a poor queen, so they couldn't build a strong cluster. But a strong cluster will make it through the winter, even if they're queenless. I've had queenless clusters make it through the winter because for whatever reason, they canned her late in the season. She didn't meet the grade. But you'll still have 6 to 8 frames of bees come out of winter. So having a strong, healthy cluster is the most important thing. I don't know where you're at. Here in Tennessee, we get a lot of rain during wintertime. We have a very wet winter. And I don't worry about it too much. I'm more concerned about just keeping them dry and keeping a strong cluster. Strong clusters in Tennessee are good. Now, if you're further up north, it's a little bit different, but the cluster is the number one thing that you can focus on. All right. Hey, Kamon, first off, thanks for the channel. I bought several Pureco Foundations single coated. Bad choice. Should I put more wax on? It really depends on the situation. So if it's a good, even coat, one is good enough. If it's just very even. The problem I find is every company, the sprayers do a better job of getting the middle and the edges don't get enough. And a lot of it depends on what position is the colony in. Are you putting this in 3 weeks before there's a good time to draw this? So they're not drawing it really quickly, because bees will pick at it a little bit for a week or so. And then, all of a sudden there's a honey flow going on and now we're going to draw, but anything they've picked off, they won't. So there's a lot of variables to drawing combs. If you put a light coat on during a honey flow with a strong bit of bees, they'll draw a single coat out quite well, but that's in a prime condition. That's why a lot of us prefer a double coat or maybe even a triple coat, because it's just a lot more forgiving in less than ideal comb drawing situations. Any info on current bee losses? Hey, Jacob, good to see you on here. So as far as the industry goes, I'm hearing that it's a better than the previous year. Now, for my personal self, I had a great wintering rate. I did lose some colonies. I always do, but I'm going to guess based off of what I've seen, we're somewhere between 8%, maybe 12% at the highest. I really don't think it's above 10%, which is very good for me. I really am trying to keep things somewhere in that 15 to 20% range. I would prefer less than that, and that's what I got this year. But we're able to take 100 colonies and turn it into 300 in a year. We sell some of them off. We keep some of the extra splits for any issues that come up, and then we overwinter extras so that we always have the numbers that we need. I'm talking to guys like Bob Benny. Some of his cluster sizes are a little smaller than he would like, but he still did have a good success rate through winter. So it really just depends on who you're talking to. But on the commercial side, it seems like things are still a little higher than people would want, but they weren't as bad as last year. And even last year's high losses, it's always hard to really get an idea of what's going on because a lot of times the people who have really good success overwintering don't report, and the ones that had a bad year do report. I just want to say a big thanks again to people who are enjoying the book and say that they purchased it. I appreciate that very much. What is your typical earliest graft day? What signs do you look for? Hey, Paul, good to have you on again. And thanks for the honey and being a part of our channel for, I don't know how many years, 5, 6 years. It's been a while. Hope you guys have a good year in Louisiana. So what I'm looking for, Paul, is some okay weather, but primarily drones. And I want to see drones that are already outside of the comb and a lot that are capped, that are on the way. And so by the time that my queens go out and have their mating flights, that they're good to go. So typically for me, I'm dropping queen cells right at the 3rd week, thereabouts, 25th, somewhere around that is what I'm probably going to shoot for this year of March. And so grafting would start a little bit before then. And I can't tell you how many times I've grafted and it's a 70-degree day and then we'll get a cold spell and the high might be 40. And but it's a powerful colony, tons of bees in there, tons of nutrition. They do just fine. And I typically naturally have some bigger colonies wanting to swarm at that period anyways. So it's apparent to me that the bees are already, the strongest of them are in that swarm capable area. So if the bees are naturally getting there, I know that that's a good time to start raising queens. Some people start a little bit earlier. I find the 3rd week of March works really good for me. And then after that, it's a roll of the dice because those queens will definitely be made well. But if they don't get good flying weather, then that's a little bit of an issue. So there's nothing you can do about that. Just pray for some sunny days. During early spring, would it be a good tactic to do a 5-day interval treatment session with OAV, meaning every 5 days for about 4 weeks to get in between the brood cycles on a hobby level? It definitely wouldn't hurt anything to do that to your bees. Is it enough to give you a 90% knockback? I doubt it, but it is going to have an effect. And especially when you're doing it early in the year, it matters because killing one mite in April or March or even June means a lot more than trying to do that same regimen in late July and August or early September. So just make sure that you monitor. The problem with oxalic acid vapors, there's still not a lot of things that we know. I asked a question recently because we've seen some of the research and some of it's, you always have to question research. That's what Dr. Sammy Ramsey did with the information on how Varroa feed. He and others have said, Varroa mites typically stay out of the cell for X amount of days. And it sounds like on average, they're out of the cell more than 5 days. Sometimes longer than that. And, maybe sometimes shorter. My question is, for a long time, many beekeepers have done 1 round of oxalic acid vapor once a week for 3 weeks. Or some of them, like myself, have done 5 rounds in 21 days. And so if the mites are out of the cell that long, that should be sufficient to keep the mites under control. And I can tell you from my experience of 2 years of research on over 40 hives at a time, 5 rounds of oxalic acid over a 21-day period never yielded me above 70% control. And once a week for 3 weeks is even less effective. So my question is, if the mites are out that long, and they're right with their idea that the mites are out that long, is the oxalic acid vapor not killing as effectively as we think it is? Is it missing some? instead of getting 90% with it or above, or we ended up on average with our treatments only getting 70% or 60%? Or is it that the mites are actually going back in faster? What's going on? And honestly, we just don't really know. So whatever you decide to do, the bee's knees, that's where your alcohol washes really come into play for Australian beekeepers, for all beekeepers, especially if you're doing something new or you're learning. That alcohol wash after the treatment is going to let you know before and after how good it worked. And after you do this for multiple years, you start finding a system, whether that's with oxalic acid vapor or multiple tools, that is going to work for you. And there's nothing that I can tell you that is going to work better than you discovering a system that works for your season and the type of tools that you want to use. So I highly recommend everyone take the time to do that. You're going to have really healthy bees if you start doing that, and know your mite loads in August and have clean bees in September. All right. Jeremy Lindsay, came and my bees are ignoring the pollen sub here in Dandridge. Looks like the season is kicking off. Oh, yeah. My bees are turning up their nose at that dry sub. Once the real pollen hits, they just have no use for it. And this is where it gets tricky. And this is why I say pollen patties are more useful for beekeepers than dry sub, because dry sub prior to when bees want to brood doesn't really cause them to brood because they just don't want to. But once they start brooding from the pollen, they are in full brood mode, full steam ahead. And then if we get some bad weather where they can't get out and they can't go get more pollen, that's where the pollen patties can supplement in between those flows. In a good year, you'll never need it. In a bad year, it can really help you out. And so that's where I really find that pollen patties for me are more useful, because I'm going to be throwing some in tomorrow, especially on the smaller colonies who maybe can't get as much pollen. But the weather looks really good in Tennessee for a good 4 to 5 pollen flow days over the next week. And if you're getting 4 to 5 good pollen flow days, you really don't need to feed pollen sub unless you're just wanting to maybe help a little colony out or just a little insurance. But they're bringing in lots of pollen right now. Paul Martin, thank you, sir. Holy smokes, 30 inches of snow in Massachusetts makes you wonder why somebody would live there, doesn't it? 30 inches. 3 inches would shut us down completely. Brian Reese, 21 inches, New Jersey, 4 days ago. Well, you guys know how to have a good time up there. I saw some of your pictures, Paul, of shoveling snow away from the hives, and that is really something. 30 inches of snow, that's intense. Good. It's a good insulator, though, and hats off to you Yankees up there that deal with all that. I think y'all should do the book as an audiobook. Yeah. We can get you to do it, David, and so it'll sound like it's coming from a really down-to-earth perspective. They have some more questions to get. I think we already did that one, Chris. Something I've considered up north, if I was to be a beekeeper with, say, 3 hives and they were dwindling, I might buy a package of bees and split it amongst the dwindling hives, just a thought. And you can do that. Commercial beekeepers sometimes, to boost bees for going into pollination, will purchase bulk bees, which is basically a package without a queen, and they'll shake them into various colonies to get them up to weight. So it definitely is a possibility. All right, here's one from Ray. Would there be any harm in cleaning the grafting tool tip with your mouth, as seen in a lot of videos? Wouldn't that potentially add bacteria to the larvae jelly pool? Absolutely. It's been done for so long. I think if it was something that was really bad, it probably would have happened by now. Maybe that's why some beekeepers have better takes than others, is because some people's breath is so bad. I don't know. I've done it before. I've never really noticed a difference when I did do it and when I didn't do it. I think the nurse bees are so good at cleaning around the larvae. And one thing that you have to consider too is that little bit of jelly that's around the larvae or any jelly that you put in there yourself, a lot of times when you drop your grafts in, the bees, they go up there and they'll clean that out and pack fresh stuff with that larvae. And so I just think the bees are so good about cleaning up things when they're healthy. It's not an issue. But, it definitely, there's no reason that you have to do it either. But I think some people just get in the mode and want to clean that hive tool. And maybe some of them have acquired a taste for royal jelly. It is one of the nastiest things that bees produce. It's the nastiest thing bees produce. It's gross. So I use an oxalic acid vaporizer to apply the oxalic acid in a vaporization form. So I use an instant vap turbo these days. But back when I was doing the test, I was using a Pro Vap 110. Now, the research has shown that they definitely aren't as effective and don't get as much oxalic acid into the colony as the newer models do, like the instant VAPs. But at the same time, I was dumping a lot in there. I was doing like 4 grams plus a colony and doing 5 and 21 days. And we would do a wash beforehand and then we would do a wash afterwards. And you do that on 40 colonies and you get a really good idea of how effective it is. And a lot of times we were in the 60s. Sometimes we would get, low 70s on effectiveness. And so if you have a colony that has a relatively low mite load that's less than 1%, 3 Varroa mites in a wash, then you're probably going to look at it and go, wow, there's hardly any mites in this following wash. It did a good job. But what you find is when you take the time to let your mites grow to 1.5%, 2% and start sampling from those and treating them, it does not knock those bigger numbers down. And that's where you start seeing, oh, okay, I'm only averaging 60% and 70%. So it's where you kind of have to watch it, because if you don't know what the situation beforehand was, you look at the after effect and go, oh, this was really effective, but it already had a low mite count. So no, it might not have been. And every colony can be different. Out of 40 colonies in the yard, you'll see some that's like, oh, this one doesn't need to be treated, or quite yet it doesn't need to be treated. This one is about right before we want to start treating it. This one over here, oh gosh, we should have treated this a brood cycle or so ago. All right, David, first hive inspection last week. Strong colony overwintered in a deep and a medium, looking pretty congested and making queen cups now. Whew, okay to add a deep now. Do I place on top of the current deep? Coastal North Carolina. Yeah, coastal North Carolina. Get some space on those bees. If the bees are pretty well packed and congested, then you definitely need to get some space on there. Even if you have some cold weather, bees are so good at generating heat. It's going to get down into the 20s. I've got sheets of brood on some of my bigger colonies. It doesn't matter. They're going to keep it warm as long as they have food. So definitely, David, get those bees some space, and good luck with your season there in North Carolina. Robert, question. I thought I heard you saying that you were going to make a video on the best bee jacket and suit. Did I miss it? I'm due for a new jacket. What do you recommend, Northeast Iowa? Thanks for bringing that up, Robert. So I'm going to answer your question. Then I'm going to also segue into why some things have been delayed and also how things are going to be getting a boost shortly. So first off, there are several good companies that produce bee suits out there. We're starting to see more competition in this space, and I'm very excited about that. There's a few things that I'm looking for in a suit. The number one is durability and comfortability. Obviously, all the suits have to protect you from bees getting in there and stinging you. That's the whole reason you wear the thing. So I don't even count that necessarily. Any decent bee suit's going to do that. But durability, I want something that's going to last me a long time. Hopping in and out of the truck, hopping onto the forklift, whatever it is, I need something that's going to last. So that outer mesh is what's going to do a lot of that for you. And some of them are very thin. That's why at the Bee Expo, I encourage everyone, if you come, to go through those companies, fill that outer mesh, try those suits on. How easy is it to look out of the veils? Some of them have such tiny veils. I don't even have near as big of a head as some of the guys out there. And some of them, I feel like I got tunnel vision. It's terrible. And then some of them, they're way too big. And then there's some that are just right. And then there's round veils. So I want durability. I want comfortability. I want something that's easy to put on and off. So I really like the Bee Supply suit that's called the Super Suit. That is a really nice commercial suit. It is heavy. It's not perfect. I'm not a big fan of the veil that's on it. Honestly, I'm not a fan of hardly any veils in this industry, though. The Man Lake suit has a nice round veil now, the clear view setup, and the suit is a good suit too. One thing I like better about the Bee Supply suit is that it comes all the way up to the cuffs, the mesh. And so if you have a set of gloves, if you need them, it just goes right there, clamps down, and it's got a really good seal. A lot of them, like the Man Lake, Apis Tactical, pretty much almost all the other companies, not all, but most, have cotton to here, and you can get stung through that cotton. Now, you're supposed to pull your gloves over that. I don't want gloves and cotton up under there. It's uncomfortable, in my opinion, and it's also a lot hotter. And so, but they're still good suits. Apis Tactical makes a really good suit. It has a lot more features. It has magnets. It has some of the best pockets. It definitely has a decent outer mesh. It has a little bit better breathability on the inside of the suit, letting your heat escape a little bit better than some of the models. I do like their fencing veil for as far as fencing veils go. And so I like the Bee Supply. I like the Apis Tactical stuff. I like Man Lake's clear view veil. The veil really is the best part about it. And the mesh is good too. The Man Lake suits are definitely oversized. So if you need to wear a large, if you want an exactly a large, a medium might work. But they're definitely bigger than what they say. The mediums are totally a large, and the smalls are definitely a medium. They're quite baggy. Anyhow, and there's several other good ones. Foxhound's got some good ones, and several. All these compliments are there. Need a veil the size of a hot air balloon. Well, I can't help it, Zach. The compliments just keep overflowing. So part of the reason I haven't released that video is, folks, I do not have time to edit a video. That'll take 3 hours to edit. And that's why you've never seen fancy videos from me. And some videos that I've wanted to release, I've never gotten to. I have dozens of videos that are really cool, but I don't have weeks to edit. I have zero time. I'm going to be working all day tomorrow too. This is what I do for fun right here, pretty much. The other night I was prepping for some of the video shoots till 11 p.m. And once I'm done with this, I've got to go out there and do a little bit of work to prep for tomorrow's beekeeping work. And that's okay. I enjoy doing what I do, but it's been really hard to be able to get some of the extras done. And so I have the stuff filmed. Well, I did. And, I haven't been in a position to do that because to hire someone to work full time on doing your videos and all that is not cheap. We bit the bullet this year and we hired a guy full time, Daniel Poor. He's worked all the bee recordings for the Expo, the Bee Expo recordings. Daniel has done that for us every single year. Any of you who have seen those, they are top notch audio and visually. And we are already prepping videos. He's working on my swarm trap video. Be looking out for that one. We've got a lot of really good tips on how to catch swarms this year, and be prepared to catch a lot, because the techniques that we use have been used by people who have caught hundreds. I've caught a ton. And one of my buddies here locally has caught hundreds of them using these techniques as well. So we do have an editor that's going to help us out, but just give us a little bit of time. We're building some systems with him, and we're also starting something new. And that's the Grow 365 channel. Chris, do you mind grabbing the link for that? And so this is not a beekeeping channel, and this is not take away from that.
Do you want to address the comment on the screen first?
No, I don't even know who that guy is.
Okay.
So Grow 365, those of you who have been around a little while have seen where we've made a few garden related videos and ag videos. And so I've always wanted to get back into that. I want to grow healthy food because I want to eat better. I need to eat healthier. We've rebranded it Grow 365. my buddy Josh, who was an employee that I just hired at the same time, basically in January, is really good at growing stuff. I'm okay at it myself. That's what got me into beekeeping. I want to get back to that. Josh is going to be helping do most of that so that we can have that content. We're going to be recording videos. That is fixing to kick off. If you would subscribe to that channel, and if you like gardening, even if you don't subscribe anyways, we could use all the help that we could get over there. And with Daniel's help and with Josh's help and Chris's help, the goal is to produce more bee videos and to also have this channel. And you're like, Kamon, why are you doing this when you have so much to do in bees? That's a good question, and I'll answer that right now. So I've been all the way to the top and left and right and the bottom of this industry at this point. Doesn't mean that I know everything, because I don't, but I've met a lot of people, presidents of the national organizations, board members, you name it, Project APISM, Honeybee Health Coalition. You know, I'm on meetings with these people now as well. And I just see that there's a lot of gaps in our industry that are not being filled. It's really bizarre to me. And something needs to be done about it. And if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it. And in my opinion, anyone who's representing the beekeeping industry on a national level, one of the top priorities that you have to do with any industry is bring new people into it. We have to help get more youth. We have to get more people involved into beekeeping. That's good for our industry as a whole. More people also need to be aware of the importance of bees and the value of honey and beeswax and all of these health things. The problem of it is a beekeeping YouTube channel really only brings people who are semi-interested in bees into it. I think a garden channel that's focused on chickens and growing tomatoes and all that. One, that's going to be fun for me. But two, I'm going to have a little bit of bee information in there as well to pull more people who are just one weird day away from becoming a beekeeper into the bee scene. And we also want to engage with FFA, 4-H, and even begin a agricultural exposition. And with a major focus of having beekeeping as a centerpiece, with a honey bar, with vendors having creamed honeys and beekeeping starter kits. Thank you, Paul. I can't turn up. I tell you what, if it's not a bee pun, it's a garden pun. And so I just believe in order for the bee industry to go where it needs to go, we need to be leveraging the agricultural side of the industry where we're not represented good at all. We've got to change that. I believe that I can. I believe that we can do a lot of good for beekeeping in defense of tropolaelaps and these invasives, but we've got to do that partnering with other people outside of our industry. And I think that there's a lot of potential for beekeeping by doing this. And I'm also going to have a good time, teach my kids about gardening. And I think you guys may enjoy it as well. I love growing sweet potatoes, tomatoes, saving my own seeds. Used to raise thousands of chickens a year, and I miss it. So that's part of what I'm going to be doing this year. And we're hoping to film anywhere between 2 garden videos a week and 2 to 3 bee videos a week if we can. It is the poor bee industry, and it has been neglected far too long by the beekeepers in it. And I'm not trying to be mean to anybody, because there's no one person to blame, but we have let ourselves degrade way too far. Some of these issues should have been dealt with decades ago. And unfortunately, people are like, why is everything so expensive? Because we're having to play ag's game and on the regulatory side, and it's costing us tons of money to get new technologies that are safer for our bees and better. And there's just a lot of waste too, and we've just got to change things. So I see some new things on the horizon. I can't share it all with you at this moment, but as I can, I definitely will. And that's where we're going in the future. If you plant sweet sorghum, there is no dearth in late summer. Yeah, well, sorghum is not honey, David. Gardener here, getting ready to get my first 2 hives here in Middle Tennessee. Just Winging It Acres. I like that name. I love chickens. I really miss doing chickens. At one point, we were running like 150 layers and 2,000 broilers a year. And I really enjoyed it. But I just had to make a decision at a certain point. Am I going to do bees? Am I going to do this? And I got married, and Laurel said, you know, you got to get this figured out. And that pressure was on. And I managed it. It took me a lot longer than I thought it would, though. All right. Back to the beekeeping questions, Chris. Do we have some? New queen overwintered Central Texas. How long should I wait to reintroduce a split to the host colony? New queen that overwintered in Central Texas. How long should I wait to reintroduce a split to the host colony? Chris, do you fully understand what he's getting at there?
I'm assuming that they want to split the colony, and they want to know when to introduce a new queen.
That would make a little bit more sense to me.
That's my best through shot at that.
And so I like to put a queen in a cage immediately after I remove the other one, but I don't want her to be released. I typically don't even to take the cork out. I'll just leave that queen in there for a couple of days, and then I'll come back in just really quickly, then pop the cork after she's been in there for a couple of days, let them eat through the candy, and that just gives her a little bit more time. And I'm feeding that colony while I'm doing that if there's not a honey flow. Just gives them a little bit more time to get used to that queen. There's a couple other methods that you can use, but that one's what I do when I'm using a queen in a cage. Hey, Eric, thanks for being one of our members. And it was a good conversation that we had last night. I was hoping to see you here. Do I, Chris? I don't think so. Do I?
Not yet, but this is a great suggestion. So,
yeah. Bee leaf. Okay. The puns are rolling off the tongues tonight.
Here, real quick, I'll just hit this one more time, just in case, while we're right here and I have it up.
So that's Grow 365. We just filmed a couple of videos today. A lot of it is about successful germination for crops like peppers and tomatoes indoors. We also just filmed a video on how to assemble an indoor seed starting station. It's really not that expensive to do, but there's certain grow lights that work really well. Some of them aren't strong enough, and if you get the wrong ones, you're going to have really weak seedlings. There's also some heating pads that are very affordable and can really help you out. So all these tips we're trying to build it like the Bee channel, where we don't want to waste your time. Some people already know the information, so maybe it's not helpful to them, but we have topics like that. We just limed our garden. We just plowed the high tunnel and the adjacent fields, and we're hoping to produce a decent bit of food. My goal with the gardening is to provide education, to provide health by doing it, and I just get tired of eating the bull crap from the store, to be honest. I got some green beans the other day. I'm just like, this is not green beans. And the problem of it is, once you start growing your own food, it's really hard to eat the other stuff, because a potato and a sweet potato grown from your own garden versus what you buy in the store, it's just a totally different texture and flavor. And it really makes a big difference. And the nutritional density. Okay, I'll get off of this here in a second. I promise we'll get back to bee stuff. But the USDA did a study, and this has been years ago, and they took commercial green beans, and then they took green beans not from a special garden, that just from an average home garden that hadn't been really worked up good, had a lot of minerals added to it, no really prep work, just your average home garden. And what they found is that you had triple the calcium, higher levels of protein, more fiber. You had a lot more cobalt, vanadium. Basically, everything was 200 to 300% higher in many categories, and the trace minerals and the mineral content. And of course, your fiber was higher, and the sugar level of the green beans was also significantly higher. And so if a kid's getting some delicious sweet green beans that are very nutritious, they're going to be more appetizing, and it's nutrient dense food. So I think there's this growing movement of going back to the garden, and a lot of people are doing that. But one of the things that we want to focus on is, how do we build soil that is going to provide the most nutrient dense foods that we can, and the least amount of pest pressure and problems like that. So I'm more of a natural gardening guy. And that's what I'm going to be focusing on. All right. And thanks everybody for checking out that channel. Let's get back to some beekeeping questions. Garden Expo in 2027. You know, you just never know. You just never know. Very likely. You had 574 acres of purple hull peas last year. Why didn't you do 600, David? 574 is a really odd number. So, by the way, guys, David helps us at the Bee Expo. He's a good friend of ours, and his brother often helps us too. And he does sorghum, and they do a lot of commercial farming. Just a good family all the way around. David's the worst of them, but if he's the worst, then they're all right. Kamon, during your oxalic acid testing, you used 4 grams of brood box, didn't you? Back before it was legal, 8 grams was still the right answer. You know, I've actually backed off a hair, Keith. I think it was good back then, but now that I've seen a little bit more data, I've backed off to about 5 grams on a double deep. Just because the data that we're starting to see is showing that that's good with the instant vat vaporizers because there's less oxalic acid loss. Some of the old models were just degrading more than double what some of these new models do. And so I'm finding that 5 grams, I think, is working just fine for me. And so that's what I'm going with. Holy smokes, Brian. So I missed too many live chats, but I was able to make it tonight. We need to help this industry by getting the youth involved. And what a better way than the Next Gen program. Thanks for all you do. Hey, Brian, thank you so much. And wow, thank you very, very much, Brian. And hope your bees are doing good there in New Jersey. And thanks for helping us at the show. You know, every year Brian comes over and you haven't missed a single one. There's only a handful of people that can say that. Brian's one of them. Since the first, and he usually we're like, go enjoy the show, Brian. He's like, well, you're trying to get rid of me or something. And so if we have an issue, he's like, because he got that New Jersey accent, he's like, I'll take care of that for you. And we don't worry about it after that. Brian's a menace, but he's a good menace. Thanks, Brian. Thanks for the kind words. Made me choke up a little bit. Odd question. Is it possible for the alarm pheromones to cause eye irritation, itching / slight burning? Asking due to a strange new experience I had while inspecting a hive today. So if you do get bee venom in your eye, which could happen in interesting situations, but that could definitely cause it. There are things that you can do that could cause some burning, but it's just the alarm pheromone wafting onto you. It should not. Now, if you have an allergic reaction to bees, it may. I've only heard of a couple people that have had an allergic reaction, not to the bee stings, but actually to just the hive environment. So I would just kind of watch out for that a little bit. That's a little bit interesting. But no, I wouldn't think that shouldn't be normal. That's not normal. Last year I had swarms beginning in April. When would be the best time to split as to hopefully thwart their swarming impulse? Double deeps plus 1 medium of brood. San Francisco Bay Area, Zone 9B. Drones flying and a walk away. So what you want to do is do it before they're going to start getting in the mode, because if they start capping queen cells, they are going to swarm, or you've got to split them heavily one way or the other. They're splitting at that point. And so I would like to start making my splits before then. So once the bees start getting around 16 frames strong in a double deep setup, and they're powerful, and there's plenty of brood, and you're looking like there's 6 frames of brood, there's 8 frames of brood. And I base it off of my flow. My honey flow doesn't start till April 1st. So there's no point of having powerful colonies that are thinking about swarming on the 10th or the 14th of March, because I mean, I don't want to lose those swarms, and they're not making honey at that point either. So going ahead and splitting them sometime right around then is good. And what I often do, pretty much every hive, I'm going through it and we're equalizing. We're not doing it quite yet, but early March, which is almost here, and definitely by the second week of March, we're heavily equalizing our colonies. Oh, this one's too big, take a frame away. This one's small. Okay, let's boost it up. Let's try to even things out And then we're able to split almost all of them at the same time. Everything's in the same position, but you definitely want to do it before the bees start building those capped swarm cells, or you're just fighting it at that point. So I would recommend a week before you think that they're going to think about swarming is when you should consider doing that. And if you can get queens, and being in California, there are queens available if you order them early enough. And if you want to do a walk-away split and you have drones flying, and it sounds like you already do, then you could do a walk-away split if you wanted to. Maybe what you do, if you have multiple colonies, you let one of them get to the point where they're building swarm cells out, maybe not even capped all the way. And then you just go ahead and pull those cells, 2 cells or 3 cells to a split, and then you can pull frames of brood from either other colonies and get those where you want them. And that's how you've got your own cells going. Just a couple thoughts there. Good luck brewing full, but the main thing is pay attention to your season. Talk to people who have experience with your season and build your system around when the flows are and when the bees naturally want to have those swarm cells. That's the best way you can do it. I'm definitely not in zone 9B. What's your opinion of Varroa? I have no clue how well it works. I've heard some people say it's really been great in their trials. I've heard some people say it was a little underwhelming. It sounds like every other treatment that I've heard before. Everyone says it about Apivar and Formic Pro and oxalic acid and everything in between. And it has to be used smart. I think there's great potential for it. And I wouldn't be so high on it if it wasn't for the fact that Tropicolaps could be here at any moment. We don't know. Tropicolaps is going to reproduce 3 to 4 times faster than Varroa. We already have a hard enough time dealing with Varroa. And so something that's going to reproduce even faster is a pain in the rear. And the problem with any of these products that we're typically using, it kind of sets our bees back a little bit. You use formic acid, it sets the bees back. You use thymol, sets the bees back. And on strong colonies, it's okay. But on your colonies that are on their back foot or weak, you better not use those products because it will knock the queen out or knock the colony so far back that they could get robbed out in the summertime, or they may just not get quite big enough to overwinter in your area. So I would like to see treatments that are more gentle and effective. If Varroa can do that to where it's just keeping them from reproducing for 16 to 18 weeks, that would be great. Tropicolaps, we would definitely have to have smarter tools. There is not a chance our industry can survive Tropicolaps with the current tools that we have. So I see Varroa as a product that might help beekeepers now, but I'm going to be trying it out this year so I can actually have a legit opinion. But we definitely have to see how that's going to work for Varroa, and hopefully they'll be able to create a product for Tropicolaps because we are going to need some serious armaments. What is the outcome of signing the petition? So far, that is going really good. That was to get things going into the federal government to be able to get this Tropicolaps and the yellow-legged hornet and these issues as legit problems. And this is a big concern. It's not that we're trying to get the government involved per se. We just want them to, if they're going to drop $16 billion into agriculture, they could drop a few bucks over here to help fund some researchers and some state inspectors. Because right now, everyone that's working on Tropicolaps or yellow-legged hornet or any of our issues, they're doing it on a shoestring budget, and it's ridiculous. And I don't like the idea of the government just throwing money around because they're wasting our money, but they are going to waste it. So I think if they're going to, they need to be wasting it in the beekeeping industry and not in a lot of other places that they waste it. And that's all I'll say about that. But yes, the petition is moving forward. We're seeing really good results. I ought to bring Charles back on and we can talk a little bit about some of the updates on that. Unfortunately, these petitions, all these things do take time to develop. But that's why we have to start now. My hope is that Tropicolaps won't be here for a decade or two. And if we have that kind of time and we start working on solutions now, we're going to be in a way better spot. But we have to start doing things now. Best advice for an absolute beginner beekeeper. Joined a county association and took a beginner class last weekend. First of all, don't fall into the trap of a closed mindset or thinking that just because you read it in your beekeeping book or you just got it into at your bee club that it's right. Sometimes it is right though. But there's some beginner books that'll tell you you just can't do this at all. Like getting into a hive at 40 degrees Fahrenheit and adding some extra fondant or a sugar brick if they're light. People do it all the time. People do it with snow on the ground. So you just have to be careful. The information, absorb information. I'm constantly still absorbing information. There's so much to learn in this. The main thing that I would give you for successful advice, though, is three things: great queens, dead mites, good nutrition. Those are the three fundamentals. If you do those well, you typically have live bees. And if you have live bees, most of the time people are pretty happy. The great queen one can be a little bit trickier. And I think it would be good advice to go and work with somebody else who has bees. Maybe your club has bees, maybe a bee buddy that you can make at the club has bees. Getting more frame time is important. Start learning how to split if you can. Watch videos. Kamon Reynolds. There's Bob Benny has good videos. Several other people do, but going with somebody to maybe help them split their bees or at the club, you don't need that maybe the first year, but that's definitely a valuable skill long term with beekeeping, is making your own splits. That's insurance right there. And so that's where your great queens comes into play, because just like with chickens, you get a few good years out of chickens laying, but eventually they get too old, they don't lay as good. Same way with queens. And you don't want a queen running out of gas in late August, and that's a rough time of the year. Sometimes nature throws you a curveball. A lot of times it doesn't, though, but having those backup queens is great. So look into splitting, maybe get some frame time with somebody else. Always keep your colony in food, but don't overfeed. Some people say the bees will stop taking food when they don't need it. That is an absolute lie. The bees will stop taking food whenever there's a strong honey flow going on. But if there's not a strong honey flow going on, they are just going to take it. And then if there's a strong honey flow on Wednesday and you have food in there, maybe they won't take it on a prime honey flow day. But if it's a dearth the next day, and literally it can cut off that quick, they'll suck down all the syrup the next day. It doesn't matter if they have 200 pounds of honey in the colony, they will suck that syrup down. That's why they're honeybees, is they go, and they don't stop. Why I say this is because you can overfeed. We have two different types of beginner beekeepers: the ones that don't feed enough and the ones that overfeed typically. Try not to be either one of those. A good colony that has at least 8 frames of bees is going to need 3 deep combs worth of honey or sugar syrup, or they are not going to grow properly. So just keep that in mind. Always be looking at about 3 deeps equivalent of food in there, and that's minimum. It'd be better to have more than that. And bees eat pretty quickly. I don't know where you're at. Some of us don't have long dearth periods. Some of us in Tennessee, I have a dearth period that's 2.5 to 3 months, and dearth means no nectar and very little to no pollen. And the bees can survive that as long as they have plenty of resources. Your strongest colonies that I've overwintered, they make enough of the natural stuff. They can go through our summer with very little to no supplemental feeding. A new split that you purchased, a package, or a swarm that you catch late is going to have feed. So you just have to keep in mind, some of the times these rules that people create are really subjective to the conditions of where you live, the conditions of when the colony was received. So I want good nutrition, great queens, and then dead mites. Controlling your mite loads is really important, and starting early is good. I like an alcohol wash. It's a cumbersome, frustrating thing to do, but you know what? If you can control your mite loads and you have good food and you have a good queen, you have bees, and you're going to be sending off swarms eventually too. And so enjoy the journey. Don't be discouraged. Everybody who's keeping bees is also losing bees. The goal is to learn how to keep them so well that you're able to make your own splits, and that you can, do what we do. And we take, 10 hives, turn it into 30. Yeah, you lose a few of them, but you've tripled your operation. It's a journey. enjoy it. Don't be depressed when you lose a hive. Truly is part of it, just like losing a chicken. The people who stick with it, they figure it out. Hey, all the way from Sweden. And thank you for staying up so late, because in Sweden, it is crazy early in the morning over there. And it is so good to see you back in the group. And I know you've been busy. I hope that you have a great honey crop there in Sweden. And I still am enjoying my Swedish honey and stuff like that. I kind of have to just have little bits here and there so I don't burn through it too quickly, but I do appreciate it very much. I hope that your family is doing well. Hey, Kamon, it's me again. It's me again, Margaret. Ontario, and I'm 14. I was wondering the ratios for sugar syrup water for feeding. So it really is all subjective to what you're trying to do. Some people say in those beginner books, you have to feed 1-to-1 at this time, 2-to-1 at this time. And they just blanket statement it like that. That's ridiculous. If you get to a colony, you're like, man, this one needs a lot of weight right now. Thicker syrup is going to get you there faster. If you're looking at a colony that's like, I'd like to give them just, maybe I'm introducing a queen. Maybe I'm just doing a little bit of something. I'm combining some bees and I want to give them some food, but I don't want to add a lot of weight. They've already got a decent bit of food or honey in there. Then you could do a 0.5-to-1, which is half a pound of sugar to 1 pound of water. Nectar is not 1-to-1. Nectar is much thinner typically than 1-to-1. So if we're going by what's more natural, technically thinner syrups are more natural, but it's just a tool, and the bees will enjoy taking it in either of those forms. But the ratios, the 1-to-1 is typically used for stimulative feeding and comb drawing when you're not trying to put on a ton of weight, but you can still put on weight with 1-to-1. 2-to-1 is going to add weight twice as quick. It doesn't stimulate the bees quite as much to want to express hygienic behavior and whatever. And there's been tests where they've put 1-to-1 and half a pound of sugar to 1 pound of water, 0.5-to-1, 2-to-1, and they put them out there. They always go for the thinnest syrup first and then work their way up to 2-to-1. And then if you put like Honeybee Healthy or some supplements, they go for those last. Some of these products say it stimulates the bees. Buy our product. It's going to stimulate them to eat the feed faster. It does not work like that. Healthy colonies do not need any help taking food down at all. One of the gauges that we use to know if a colony is healthy or not is if we're feeding all the colonies for whatever reason. Maybe it's a group of splits, or we're trying to draw some comb after our honey flow. We're feeding 40 colonies to a yard. 38 of them took their feed down. 2 of them didn't. Something is wrong with those bees. Oh, yep, this one's going through a requeen. Usually when colonies are queenless, they don't eat well. And sometimes you'll get some drowned bees in there too because of that. And then sometimes a new beekeeper sees that and they think, well, that's just, I'll never feed like that again. And sometimes it's the situation. Sometimes, the colonies are sickly and then they don't feed well. It's just like with a chicken or any other livestock. When the animal is healthy, they eat. Same way with kids. Healthy kids eat. And gosh, doesn't mind eat. Jimmy, chill out. I'm going to have to start another YouTube channel. But those ratios, and keep up with the beekeeping. Ontarian beekeeping, if that's the right word, is a little trickier because of your winters. I recommend you follow Etienne Tardif. He's up in the Yukon. Etienne has some great YouTube videos that will help you overwinter your bees up there. But 14, you started at the right age. I started at 14. Blake Shook started at 12. It's a big advantage. You're going to learn a lot. You're going to make a lot of mistakes right now. Chalk that up to knowledge that you're gaining. A lot of people don't start until their 30s or 40s or 50s, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's just an extra advantage for you that you can really put a lot into it at this point in your life. Have some losses and then start having some success a lot earlier than most people. Congratulations for getting into bees, and please don't be a stranger. Keep sending us questions. I love seeing young men and women get into bees. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, Ultra Breeze is another good bee suit out there as well. Definitely another good bee suit. Chris, you were bringing something up. What was it? Hey, Kamon, how many colonies would you say I can have in 1 yard without competing? I'm growing really fast. So it really depends on your location. In a dearth period, more than one colony is too many. Here in Tennessee, if I'm in a dearth period like July, if I have two colonies in the yard and they can rob one another, they'll rob each other. There's not enough food for even two in a dearth period. It's wild. So imagine having 40 colonies to a yard. When you're doing that, you have to have really good management. You have to have strong bees. That's the best defense against any type of malady in summer, robbing related or otherwise, is strong bees trying to keep that momentum going. And so, you could have 30 to 40. You could have even more during a flow. It's really just what you want to deal with. And what's better for the bees is to probably have somewhere between 20 and 30 to a yard. Having 1 to 2 for a yard would probably be better for the bees, but you have to balance that between management for you and for the bees. And it's all about location, location, location. So the better locations can support more colonies. Okay. More questions. We have a few more.
Yeah, let's take a couple more and then we'll.
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about nukes.
Yeah, because we're almost up against time here for tonight. Do you want me
Okay.
to pull that up?
So this person asks here in Tennessee. Yeah, just 1 second. March 15th. If the weather's good and you have a queen, or if you just have a queen, it depends on the split that you're making. If you're trying to do a walkaway split, that's probably a little bit too early. Walkaway splits are a little tough. I don't really like the percentages of success with them, but they can work. But if you already have some queen cells that are partially in development, or if you have purchased a queen, then yes, you can. But I don't have enough experience really doing walkaway splits that early, but I'm sure it's possible. But I usually am making splits within about a week of that time. Probably about a week later would be better. But if you have a hive that's just too powerful and it's going to swarm anyways, you might as well split it, and you can always recombine it later if they don't make their queen. Okay. If you don't want any more hives, is it smart to split and sell as a nuke? It's absolutely smart to sell as a nuke. So let's say your number of hives is 5, Eric. Then those are your honey production colonies. You want 5. You know that you're going to have some years where you lose a colony or 2. So my recommendation from a sustainable approach is I'm going to have 5 production colonies, and then I'm going to have maybe 2 backups. I think that would be a good number. These have young queens that I've purchased that year, and these are going to overwinter in my apiary. And I'm going to try to get them really strong and have them maybe in a double nuke situation, like a 5/5, get them about 10 frames strong before winter, and then condense them down into one box and overwinter them. It's about a 5-frame strong nuke. Or you can just run them as a double deep, whatever you want if you split early. But having those 2 insurance colonies is really important to sustainability. And then if you have 6 of them or 7 of them over winter, you just sell the excess off. And then if you're concerned about swarming, again, order some queens, split those hives, sell those nukes off. If you can sell a nuke in your area for $220, and a lot of people are, you're giving a good product to someone in your local community. You're also helping pay for your equipment. And most people send, if you have a strong colony, a lot of beekeepers are sending swarms off anyways. So stop the swarming, just sell a nuke instead. Maybe you get 50 pounds of honey, and then you get a nucleus colony. If you're selling your honey for $10 a pound, 50 pounds, $500 worth of honey, $200 something for a nuke, $700 a hive, 5 hives, $3,500. I'm not saying you're making money, but a lot of times we talk about how you just throw money at this, but if you really take the extra effort to start managing your mites, the feed and being sustainable with splits, you're going to get to the point where you're producing too many bees. You're sending swarms, or you're producing these bees. And most hobbies, deer hunting, gardening, can turn into a money pit. Beekeeping has more of an opportunity than a lot of things than to at least pay some of itself off, or even a break even if the right amount of knowledge and effort is put into the right places. All right, let's talk nukes really quick. And I'm going to have a handful of nukes for sale. These are all for pickup here in Gainesboro, Tennessee. Again, this year, we're going to have some of our nukes, but we're also having some nukes from one of my buddies in Florida. These are powerful, strong nukes, and the combs are quite young. Typically, 3 of the combs are brand spanking new. The queens are very young as well. I go through each one of these colonies twice. Either I do or Laurel does. And these are quality bees. And so if you're wanting to get a jump start, these extra early nukes are March 28th. I'm going to have a few of mine that are available, but I don't have a lot of mine. We're trying to sell some of my colonies down so I can get down to a more manageable number. But most of them are going to be available from my buddy, and everything's great with them. They're all started from a queen cell. And so I think that's the prime way to start a nuke, because if the queen is really good quality, she's going to build that nuke up herself. Not you're just putting in a mated queen into a kind of a split, basically, and then you just sell it off immediately. These actually have to build these nukes up. The queens have to prove themselves. And March 28th gives you a big boost on your season. For those of you who have dead outs north of me, we have a lot of beekeepers that drive down from Michigan, Indiana, Illinois. That's some of our best customers, because they know if they plug in these powerful nukes in March with their comb, they're going to be able to build those up, give them a little bit of feed. And by the time their honey flow starts, they're able to make honey a lot of times in their first year. Not everybody does, but we have definitely had a lot of reports of Yankees getting these bees and be able to make honey off of them in their first year. And so I think it's a good investment, even if you just make, one super, even half of a deep, we're talking enough to pay for the nuke off. And that's, and then you have the bees too. So I think it's a good investment there. You can check all this out at CamonsBees.com. And those will go pretty quick because we're doing a lot less than we did last year. But I just wanted to give you an idea on that. Yep. Thank you, Chris.
Did you want to touch on your second one then on April 25th, just in case?
Oh, yeah. We do have some bees that are available April 25th. Those are my nukes. Obviously, I can't produce a lot of nukes in March. If I have nukes to sell in March, they're overwintered. And so the April 25th will be ones that we are dropping queens in about the 3rd week of March, and then they'll be ready April 25th. And so those are, but no matter what you get from us, you're going to get a good nuke. And yeah, I appreciate you saying that, David. Maybe you're not that bad of a fellow after all. And David's actually in Tennessee. And so they're just powerful nukes, but they're early. Early really matters, because our honey flow starts in Tennessee the first day of April, or they're very close, and it ends by the 2nd week of June. Now, a couple areas extend further, and maybe David's in an area like that. But that's why it's better for people who are further north. If their flow starts a month later, by the time these nukes go into some comb a month later, they're a powerful, at least 10 frames of bees. And by the time you're midway into your flow, they're a double deep. And so if you have combs for them, you can really go places with these nukes. Well, David, you get yours on the 28th if you want them. Yeah. So I mentioned that about being a Yankee and all that, but funny enough, I'm a hybrid, and that's why I have some education mixed with some fun and some craziness too. Good old Southern boy charm. So my dad's from Mobile, and my mom is from Anderson, Indiana. So I'm a little bit of a hybrid there, and that's why I don't really have a lot of accent one way or the other, just enough to get people confused. But folks, oh, hi, Laurel. I've been a good boy tonight. I have not said anything I wasn't supposed to. I haven't talked about you. I went over my time. I'm only 5 minutes over my time. That's pretty good for me. So Chris, is there one or two important things that we need to say at the end of this? be tuned in for that swarm trap video. Folks, it's fixing to get real. I've already got bees looking at my swarm traps. We're early, but the prime swarms always shoot off about a week earlier than most of you think that they do. We'll start seeing the first swarms in Tennessee, I would say 10 to 14 days from now. I'm in North Tennessee. And so you want to get those traps up early. I'm fixing to release a video probably in the next couple of days, and you'll be able to see everything that we do. It's some simple tricks, but it really goes a long way. Anderson, Indiana, small world. Yep. That's where I grew up the first 12 years of my life. And first beekeeper I ran into was up there. And he was a really cool guy. I wish I could have gleaned more from him. I was just too young. But he had delicious honey. But what was cool about him is he was grafting apple trees and pear trees and walnut trees and making all like these apple trees that have 3 varieties growing off of one tree. And I just always thought he was a really cool guy. Stoller, Mr. Stoller. And he's of course deceased at this point. But that's what this garden channel is about. I have some grafted apple trees out in the front. We do garlic. We've done a lot of stuff behind the scenes. We just haven't had time to share it. Now with Josh and Daniel on board, we're going to be able to do a lot more. And they're going to free Chris up. There's a lot happening, and I am excited to share it with you. Thanks for being patient with us. You guys have hung out with us, most of you guys, a long time. You've seen where we've sometimes come up a little short. You still hang out with us and still support us anyways, but you see what we've created together. There's a lot more creating to do, and we're not stopping anytime soon. Thanks for being a part of this. 2 weeks from now, Friday, I'm going to have another live chat. Now, I am having my wisdom teeth removed right before, so it's kind of be a day of decision. The dentist says I should have had these removed a long time ago. But the dentist says I should have had them. Chris, what have you done with the music?
I'm playing you out. This is like the Grammys. I'm playing you out.
All right, y'all. So we're fixing to close this show down, but I'm gonna next 2 weeks from now, Friday night, 7 p.m. If I feel good and my wisdom teeth haven't really put the hurt to me, I am going to be doing another live. Have your questions. Send me some more. I'm looking forward to talking with you then. Thanks everyone for the support, being a member, commenting in this group, coming to our Bee Expo. You guys are the best. Good luck with your bees, and we'll see you in the next video. Rally!